Welcome back. We're taking a deeper dive now into the Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. This week, the Rundown's Andrew Burkle caught up with Kate Shaw, who's a professor of law at Cardozo in New York City. Take a listen as she shares her thoughts.
This week, Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson faced some of the toughest questions yet from Republicans. How do you think she handled herself during that process?
I think Judge Jackson handled herself extraordinarily well in response to some very tough questions, some of which she wasn't even really given much of a chance to respond to. So I'd say in particular, Senator Cruz, Senator Graham, Senator Hawley, Senator Cotton pressed her on her record, both as a judge. She was asked repeatedly about a handful of cases that she decided and sentences she imposed involving child pornography offenses. She was also asked about some of her representations when she was a lawyer before taking the bench, including representations as a public defender of several detainees at Guantanamo Bay. But I think in every instance she was respectful, she was patient, even when asked repeatedly about the same events. And she explained that her role as a judge is to apply the law and the guidelines set forth by the Sentencing Commission, and to decide in every instance what sentence is appropriate given the circumstances surrounding each offender, and given where they stand in contrast to other offenders accused of or convicted of similar kinds of crimes. And so I thought she kind of overall, again, in response to some very tough and pointed questioning, handled herself very, very impressively.
We obviously don't have these hearings that often, so they change over time. How much have these changed, and what has changed over the years in these hearings, these Supreme Court hearings?
They've certainly changed a great deal in recent decades. I think it's the case that once upon a time, very qualified nominees of either a Republican or a Democratic president could attract unanimous or near unanimous support, obviously including from across the aisle. So Justice Scalia was confirmed unanimously, even though he was a very conservative justice. He got all the Democratic votes because Democratic senators understood that he was objectively qualified to serve on the Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who had been, a feminist icon, a civil rights litigator, and, very much a liberal, there was no question about that, was confirmed 96-3. So nearly every Republican senator voted for her. So once upon a time, very qualified nominees were, confirmed by near unanimous or unanimous votes. But that's no longer the case, right? Each president now nominates even objectively qualified nominees, as Judge Jackson very clearly is, and will have to work very hard to get any votes from across the aisle. So President Obama's nominees did pick up a couple of Republican votes, right? Senator Lindsey Graham, who's viewed as one of the Republican senators who may be in play for Judge Jackson, voted to confirm both of President Obama's nominees. There were a couple of Democratic votes for some of President Trump's nominees, but for the most part, these are now party line votes. And that's an enormous change and I think an enormous problem, and it contributes to the public's perception that the court is a partisan institution. And that's not historically how the public has viewed the Supreme Court, nor I think the role of the court in our institution, in our sort of system of government.
Very interesting. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown. We hope to see you again next weekend.